in Germany, agreed to give Hitler the Sudetenland, Czechoslovakia's strategic border region containing vital military defenses. British Prime Minister paved the road to catastrophe. Slovakia gained autonomy following Munich, and when Hlinka died, Tiso assumed total control. On March 14, 1939, Tiso became Prime Minister of an autonomous Slovak state. The next day, Nazi Germany invaded and occupied Czech territories, violating the Munich Agreement. Under German protection and coercion, Tiso declared Slovak independence, creating a Nazi puppet state. October 1939 brought Tiso the presidency. His collaboration with Nazi Germany intensified immediately. In April 1940, Slovakia passed the first Aryanization law, confiscating Jewish property and systematically excluding Jews from economic life. Government propaganda weaponized anti-Semitic stereotypes, claiming Jews had stolen Slovak wealth through exploitation. July 1940, Hitler summoned Tiso to Salzburg for a pivotal meeting. German Foreign Minister Joachim von Ribbentrop delivered a brutal message. Germany considered Slovakia within its Lebensraum. Capitulated completely. Slovakia appointed German advisors and intensified anti-Jewish persecution. On September 9, 1941, the Tiso regime enacted the Jewish Code based on Germany's Nuremberg laws. The government boasted this represented and reduced their property rights to nothing. This legal framework prepared Slovakia for the unthinkable, mass deportation to death camps. According to December 1940 census data, approximately 89,000 Jews lived in Slovakia. In March 1942, Slovakia became the first Axis partner to consent to systematic deportation under the final solution. Between March and October 1942, Slovak authorities concentrated roughly 58,000 Jews in camps at Sered, Novaki, and Vina. Slovak gendarme, military personnel, and Hlinka Guard paramilitary units rounded up families, separating children from parents, husbands from wives. The deportation trains crossed into German-occupied Poland. Virtually all 58,000 Slovak Jews perished in Auschwitz, Majdanek, Sobibor, and other extermination facilities. Only 300 survived. Among the survivors were Alfred Wetzler and Rudolf Verba, who escaped Auschwitz in spring 1944 and compiled the first comprehensive report on the camp's operations for Western audiences. Here's where Tiso's collaboration reaches its most grotesque dimension. The Slovak state didn't just hand over its Jewish citizens to Nazi Germany, it paid for their murder. For every deported Jew, Slovakia transferred 500 Reichsmarks to Germany, supposedly covering retraining and accommodation costs. In total, the Tiso government paid Nazi Germany 10 million Reichsmarks to exterminate Slovak Jews in death camps. Think about that horror. A government using taxpayer money to finance genocide against its own people. Tiso, a Catholic priest who took vows to serve God and humanity, turned mass murder into a business transaction. When the papal nuncio informed Tiso in autumn 1942 that Germany was systematically murdering Slovak Jews, the priest-president hesitated. He temporarily halted deportations of the remaining 24,000 Jews in Slovakia. But this wasn't conscience, it was politics and Catholic Church pressure. August 29, 1944. As Soviet troops entered neighboring territories, Slovak communists and non-communists launched the Slovak National Uprising against Tiso's fascist regime. Unable to suppress the rebellion, Tiso invited German troops into Slovakia. With the Wehrmacht came Einsatzgruppe H, Nazi mobile killing squads specializing in murdering Jews. Between September and December 1944, German units deported approximately 12,600 additional Slovak Jews to Auschwitz, Theresienstadt, and other camps. Only half survived. Thousands more Jews caught hiding or fighting with partisans were murdered by German forces and Slovak Hlinka Guard units. The uprising ended October 28, 1944. Just 2 days later, on October 30th, Tiso personally decorated German soldiers in Banska Bystrica who had suppressed the rebellion. Among those honored was Oskar Dirlewanger, commander of one of Nazi Germany's most notorious units, responsible for unspeakable atrocities across Poland and Belarus. Final tally, Over 70,000 Slovak Jews deported, more than 60,000 murdered. 2/3 of Slovakia's Jewish population annihilated. April 1945. The Soviet Red Army conquered Western Slovakia's final territories. Tiso fled to Austria, then Germany, hiding in the Altötting monastery under his false identity. American forces arrested him in June 1945 and extradited him to reconstituted Czechoslovakia in October. The trial began December 2nd, 1946. Prosecutors showed Tiso footage from liberated concentration camps. Witnesses testified he appeared indifferent, looking sideways or at the ground. He displayed zero remorse. Tiso refused to condemn Nazi Germany's crimes, arguing that expressing regret would imply guilt. Shockingly, he declared that if faced with identical circumstances again, he would act exactly the same way. April 15th, 1947. The Czechoslovak National Court found Tiso guilty of multiple crimes: approving the Jewish Code, expropriating Jewish assets, approving deportation of 837 Jews to concentration camps in 1942, delivering prisoners to German forces knowing they'd be murdered, allowing Gestapo torture operations, ordering the Hlinka Guard to help German forces imprison and slaughter thousands during the uprising, and numerous other offenses. The court sentenced him to death by hanging, civil rights deprivation, and total property confiscation. Chief Justice Igor Daxner, himself a communist and 1944 uprising participant, wrote devastating words about Tiso. Tiso never did anything that could cleanse his reputation as an executioner. He showed a complete lack of sentiment toward his fellow man and indifference to his victims. He has a perverse character of such moral insanity that it is not possible with good conscience to recommend clemency. The night before execution, Tiso proclaimed himself a martyr of the Slovak nation. He was 59 years old on April 18, 1947, when executioners led him to the gallows in Bratislava. Dressed in his clerical garb and clutching a metal crucifix, the priest dictator faced his final judgment. But the execution went horrifically wrong. The hanging failed to break Tiso's neck. Instead of instant death, he slowly suffocated, struggling at the end of the rope. According to contemporary press reports, doctors pronounced him dead 7 minutes after the execution began. 7 agonizing minutes of choking to death. Czechoslovakia buried Tiso secretly, trying to prevent his grave from becoming a shrine. Far-right followers soon identified his burial site at St. Martin's Cathedral Cemetery in Bratislava. Decades later, DNA testing in April 2008 confirmed remains found as Tiso's. They were exhumed and reinterred in St. Emmeram's Cathedral in Nitra, following canon law. Today, Slovakia remains divided over Tiso's legacy. Far-right nationalists proclaim him a martyr who sacrificed his life for his belief in nation, portraying him as communism's innocent victim and even suggesting sainthood. These revisionist narratives ignore the 70,000 Jews he helped murder, the blood money he paid for genocide, and his complete lack of remorse. In March 2022, marking the 80th anniversary of the first transport to Auschwitz, Slovakia's parliament finally condemned the mass deportations. Lawmakers acknowledged particularly reprehensible the forced deportation of the citizens of the Jewish origin and asked forgiveness from survivors and victims' descendants. Members of the extreme far-right People's Party, Our Slovakia, who openly support the wartime Slovak state's legacy, refused to participate in the vote. Josef Tiso's story reveals how easily religious authority, nationalism, and hatred can merge into genocide. A man who pledged to serve God instead orchestrated mass murder for profit. His 7-minute death by suffocation on the gallows represents a fraction of the suffering he inflicted on tens of thousands of innocent people. This has been Veil History, where we rip away the curtain on history's darkest secrets. If this investigation left you shocked and hungry for more truth, here's what you need to do right now. First, smash that subscribe button and hammer that notification bell so you never miss when we expose another historical monster.